Happy Tuesday, class. Welcome to day 2 of our interactive read aloud with Ada's Violin. We will continue where we left off yesterday. When the girls started school, remember that's Ada and her younger sister Noelia, the book is referring to, Grandma returned to work as a recycler, collecting bottles and cans in the city. Classes let out at noon. Young Ada was in charge of Noelia until her parents were done with work. At first, the girls stayed close to home, playing with Grandma Miriam's doggies and making sand cakes in the dirt. Soon they joined their cousins playing hide and seek or a game of handball in the streets. In time, they ventured farther afield, walking down to the bodega to get candy. Bodega. Maybe some of you have picked up on the fact that the author is inserting some Spanish words here. Bodega is like a 7-Eleven. Maybe you got that from the context of the statement itself, but it's like a small little convenience store. But Ada noticed the teenagers hanging out in the alleys, grumbling about life in the landfill, looming ahead. What would happen to them, her sister, to her little sister? She watched as the older kids turned to gangs and got into fights. One day when Ada was 11 years old, her grandmother saw a sign posted on the wall of a chapel. Violin, guitar, cello taught Saturdays at 8 a.m. Fabio Chavez. How Grandma had longed to learn music. Too late for her, maybe, she thought, but not for her granddaughters. She signed them up without asking them, or their parents. Ada's heart sang out. Thanks to her abuela, again there's a Spanish word that means context, grandma, she could leave her worries behind and learn to play. At the first class, the teacher, Fabio Chavez, had 3 guitars and 2 violins to share. Ada chose a violin right away, but 10 children had signed up. Frustrated, Ada and her friends found that there were not enough instruments to go around. And there was a bigger problem. Everyone quickly realized that the children would need to practice at home, but it wasn't safe to be seen with an expensive instrument in Cantera, where a violin is worth more than a house. Wow. I need to let that sink in for a second. Where a violin is worth more than a house. Wow, that really gives you an insight as to what life is really like there, doesn't it? Okay, let's continue. Watching the children play amid broken glass and rusty metal, Senor Chavez knew he had to do something. He remembered a band called Les Luthiers that made its own instruments. That was it. He asked Nicolas Cola Gomez, a ganchero and carpenter, for help. Senor Gomez found a discarded drum with a big hole in it. What could he use to fix it? He picked through the trash and discovered an old X-ray film. Would that work? It did! Senor Gomez kept experimenting, and others like Tito Romero helped. Inventing instruments wasn't easy, but they fiddled around, discovering which materials hit just the right notes. They transformed oil drums into cellos, water pipes into flutes, and packing crates into guitars. Soon, there were enough instruments for all the children who wanted to play. Ada chose a violin made from an old paint can, an aluminum baking tray, a fork, and pieces of wooden crates. Worthless to thieves, it was invaluable to her. It was a violin of her own. Senor Chavez set up a strict schedule of 3-hour lessons. The class had no classroom, so they played outside, despite the 100-degree heat and sudden downpours. Downpours. I wonder what that means. Downpours comes down. I'm thinking that's rain, and it sounds kind of maybe like a heavy rain. I'll have to look that up later. Maybe somebody can confirm and message the class telling me what downpours mean, and maybe tell me if I'm right. At first, Ada and the others struggled. Sharps and flats clanged and clashed. Playing the instrument is a process. It doesn't matter if one is rich or poor, ugly, fat, thin, or bald. You cannot learn to play an instrument overnight, Senor Chavez told the children. Some kids decided it was too much work and gave up, but not Ada. After lessons, she would practice at home, sometimes 2 hours a day. So it sounds like quite a number of students had a fixed mindset and gave up, but not Ada. Ada looks like her and the rest of the musicians that are sticking around are showing that they have a growth mindset. Okay, class, we're going to stop there for today. Remember to answer today's interactive read aloud question on our Google Classroom. I'll see you tomorrow where we will finish Ada's Violin.